We're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order for Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. Thanks everyone for coming. Before we start our budget review, I want to do some new business. So could I please get a motion to go into new business? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Okay. So the new business is I want to revisit a bit last night the discussion that we had on the bonding resolution for Great Island and parking. You'll recall that discussion included an amount to cover design and construction bid document work by Reed Hildebrand, as well as some other components ranging from contingency to legal fees to town consultants for a traffic study and to funding a construction manager. So after further discussions, what I would like to propose that we do is that we modify the amount that we've approved for this. So last night that was $617,250. I'd like to propose that we remove these contingency items, one of which is actually contingency and the others are placeholders there in the event those expenses come up. I'd like to propose that we remove the contingency for $46,848, construction manager for $50,000, town consultants for $20,000, and attorney's fees for $25,000 for a total of $141,848. What the intent would be there is not to say that we're going to have these expenses, but rather we simply would just go back to the Board of Finance for, say, an appropriation or more likely an expenditure from the Board of Finance contingency should any of these actually come forward. So for example, if it turns out that we do need to spend some money on attorney fees, rather than drawing on this budget, we simply would go to the Board of Finance and say we have a tangible need for attorney's fees. Could you please pull some money from contingency to fund that? So by taking those out, the amount that we are proposing for appropriation and approval and in the bond resolution goes from $617,250 down to $475,402. So my plan further to that is to revise the bond resolution. So last night we voted on a bond resolution in the amount of $617,250. I propose that we adopt a bond resolution that reads in section 1 as follows. The sum of $475,402 is appropriated for costs associated with the planning and design of roads, parking, sidewalks, site drainage, stormwater management, vehicle gates, lighting, utility access, site furnishings, including wayfinding signage, landscaping, tree management and replacement, and soil testing on Great Island and the town of Darien. Such costs to include, but not limited to, planning, architectural designs, schematic designs, design development, construction documents, town approvals and permits, bidding and procurement, as well as contingency, administrative, printing, legal, and financing costs related thereto. Said appropriation to be inclusive of any and all state and federal grants in aid thereof. And as a reminder, this project is limited in scope to cover specifically parking, bike racks, a drop-off zone, improvements to the northern causeway, traffic circle modifications, a visitor road servicing the new parking, and roadside drainage and stormwater management. So I've teed this up with all of you over the course of today. I'll give a longer presentation of this at the Board of Finance meeting later this evening. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Could I get a motion? Please. Please.
I believe that, and I didn't have enough time to go through all this, but I believe that the permitting process doesn't include, their amount doesn't include permitting, so town permits.
Wouldn't permitting be a part of the construction system?
No, the actual work is, but actually pulling the permits, actually paying for the permits.
Okay, we will go to the Board of Finance for a contingency amount to cover that when that comes up. Thank you.
So,
other questions?
Yeah, so in general, are we then going to go before the Board of Finance for every project when we want to add a contingency, or?
So that's not the case. I think the Great Island is a unique project. In this particular instance, the investments in Great Island, I think, are under significant scrutiny. And I think there's a felt need among multiple bodies in town and individuals to say, for our work on Great Island, we'd like it very precisely constrained, And we want to make sure that when we start down the path of spending money like this, that we specifically define what we're spending on, and that if there's any deviation from that and there's more money that's needed just for this project, we want to make sure that we are able to put multiple eyes on it. And so that's why we're kind of changing the focus a bit and adjusting how we're requesting money from sort of everything we need for the project plus a variety of contingency funds to say just the project. And as we go along through this and we find out we need more money, we'll go back to the Board of Finance. I think in the future, I would strongly recommend against this model for other things. There's lots of expenditures that we undertake as a town that are much more routine in nature. And the idea that we simply can't build in any contingency for any project would lead to a great deal of inefficiency in town. But I think Great Island, again, is unique, which is why we're doing it in this case and in this case only. Other questions? Okay, could I get a motion, please, to approve the revised bond resolution in the amount of $475,402, and to recommend said resolution to the Board of Finance for approval? Mike moves, Sarah seconds, all in favor? All opposed? 4-1, thank you. Okay. Do I need a motion to return to regular business, or can we go? Okay, we will go back to the top of our agenda. One thing just to let everybody know, I'm going to have to present this revised plan to the Board of Finance. They start to meet at 7:30. They're going to text me when that's ready, and I will put this meeting in recess so that I can go down with anyone on this board that would like to come. Present that to the Board of Finance down in room 119, and as soon as that's finished, I'll come back here and we will resume this meeting. So given that, let's move things along and go to budget review. Today's first topic is the library. Jennifer.
We have members of the library here.
I can see they're here in force. I'm feeling intimidated.
Come on up. Hi, everyone. Kira's not intimidating.
Okay. Well, yes, she is. So you have 60 seconds, please.
All right, you got it. Did you want me to jump in, or you wanted to give an overview?
You go right ahead.
All right, excellent. So this year, the library is coming to you with a budget that comes in overall at an increase of 3.26%, which is roughly about $152,000 over the current year approved budget. The primary drivers of that 3.26% are in our healthcare, a little bit in our salary line, although I think very reasonable increases and modest increases there, and a little bit in our building operations. With regard to our health care, we are still part of the Connecticut State Partnership Plan. We are anticipating an increase in our premiums this year of about 10%, which is a lot for us. It's a huge number for us. So I will tell you, when we got that number, we started investigating alternative options. I talked to Jen even about the town plan, and would that be, more cost effective? We looked at other groups and
How long have you been in the state health plan?
We've been in the state plan 7 years, roughly. Yeah. And ultimately what we discovered after doing some of this market research and looking around is that over the long haul, it still remains the best value. On average, the increases have been about 5% a year. Last year it was below 3%. The year before, I think it was about 5%. The year before that was 2.5%. So it has been, fairly small increases. So our determination and the board's determination was, ultimately, it's better for us to stay with this. It still remains a good value. And compared to a lot of what I'm hearing from other plans across the state of Connecticut and elsewhere, they are seeing increases much higher this particular year. So that's what's going on in the healthcare line. In the salary line, as you know, the last 4 years we've come to you. We've been in this initiative to bring our professional librarians up to benchmark, and we've done amazing work and been able to really make huge progress on that with your support for those salaries initiatives. And I think it's been really successful because we did it a little bit at a time, tiny increases, very strategic each year over that period. So this is the last year of that initiative. We don't have any green circle individuals, meaning individuals eligible for more than 3% to get them to benchmark. So really all we're doing is we want to keep most of our people eligible for that 3%, so we, can maintain and sort of lock in that great gains that we've made over the last 4 years. The only other thing in the salary line is a modest increase in part-time hours for our teen services department. And if you read the presentation, I think it's Appendix A, there's a little bit more information about why we're going to need a little more support in our teen library next year, which is very exciting. The reason that we are able to effectively triple the space for our teens, but not really have a really meaningful impact on our salary line, is because of an incredible historic gift that was made to the library. You may have seen the announcement, it just went out today. We received a $2.2 million gift to our endowment for the creation of a full-time position in our children's library. That is going to be the Suzanne McGraw Children's Librarian. Sue McGraw Foundation enabled us to do this. So what that means in terms of the impact on our municipal grant is that we can just smartly kind of reallocate funds to teen. Now the children's library has the support they need. We were able to move some part-time hours over to teen so that we don't need to really stress our staffing budget and be able to have both departments have as much support as they're going to need next year, which is.
So it's an endowed
It is
employee
a
position.
permanently endowed position for our children's library, yes, covering salaries, benefits, and all the incidentals.
Thank you. Thanks to those generous people. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. That's
incredible. Sue, and many of you probably know her late father, Harold, were amazing, have been amazing library champions and real angels for Darien Library in the community. So that's what's going on in our salary line. So pretty modest increases overall, staying below 3% overall in the salary line. And in our building operations, we have a little bit of increases here and there, primarily in our facilities maintenance lines, our annual contracts with some of our landscaping contractors, repairs, things like that. And we're essentially basing that on actuals, like the money that we're seeing happening right now in terms of contract renewals, repair costs, labor, parts, God forbid you have to order something and it's from overseas or whatever, so those costs are just going up. Percentage-wise, it looks high. Dollar amount, it's fairly negligible. The dollars are not huge, but it is significant to us to make sure that we have adequate coverage for our facility needs next year. So those are the main, I would say the main drivers in the budget and things that are happening, but I'm happy to answer questions about any other line items.
A couple for me. Just in general, are your building systems now stabilized? So that's from the geothermal heat to all the other things that have created some trouble historically?
Yeah,
Do you feel
so
like that's in good shape?
I think it was 2018 when the geothermal, they did a major project, I think to the tune of over $1 million to redo the geothermal wells, which had been causing some issues. So it's wonderful. We have good, for the most part, pretty good heating and cooling through that system, much more efficient. So our building systems are in good shape. We replaced some of our air handling units a couple years back. The Friends covered all of those replacements. And we have a really nice map of, all of our inventory, all of our systems, end of life, when was it last updated, when we can anticipate needing to replace any of that. And as you know, the Friends would always cover all of those capital upgrades. But in terms of the annual operations, so far so good. We're doing quite well.
Okay. And my only other question is, I only get one complaint about the library.
Oh, I know it's going to be.
Show of hands, anybody? So it's parking. So what's the parking plan?
Yeah, so, long term, I don't have a great answer for you because, building a parking structure would be amazing, but we would need another angel donor to come in with a couple $1 million.
Archangel, maybe.
Yes, a park angel, yes. So, short term is we have a wonderful relationship with Jerry Nielsen, who allows our staff to park in one of the back lots that haven't been taken over by construction. All of our staff park there during the day, which helps alleviate, and open up some spaces during the day. And we are able to use that as overflow after 5 p.m. and on the weekends. So when we have big programs and events, we can direct people back there. People don't like parking back there, but it is an option. Otherwise, it's schedule management. So, we sit down with our leadership team every single week and look out, what do we have on the schedule? What room reservations do we have? Who's booking study rooms and meeting rooms? What, children's events, book clubs, and really being thoughtful about not having too much happening in the building at the same time, so that, we don't have an association of realtors meeting in the community room while there's a story time and while there's a knitting club or whatever. And just being thoughtful about our programming has helped a little bit, but it is an issue that I don't have a great solution for. We're too popular for our own good most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on that. Do you think the teen tween, that new activity will add to the parking pressure, or are you gonna schedule around that?
a lot of the teen activity we see are actually tweens, and it is going to be all, a tween and teen library center, emphasis on the tween part. So these are mostly like the middle schoolers who tend to get dropped off and aren't driving themselves yet. That are, the people who are in the building for the most part in the afternoon through the evening, through 9 p.m. are tweens and teens. So it's really more about better serving them and giving them, a better resource and revitalizing the space down there. I'm sure we'll see a little bit more traffic, especially as it opens. There's going to be some excitement. But I don't anticipate a huge impact to the parking lot beyond what we're already seeing.
Kira, I think your report, and I'm sure for everyone,
It's fantastic.
we don't have a lot of questions because it's such a great report, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's great your annual fund is up 10%. I think that's
Thank you.
shows a lot from the community.
Yeah.
Just quick, do they ever have like bus services from the middle school to the library, or has that ever been talked about?
That's a good question. I mean, not as a regular stop, I don't believe. We occasionally have class visits and things like that, so
Yeah.
they certainly come to the library during the day for various special events. But, it's not something
That would have
that
been a
we
great resource for me instead of having to pick her up from
Right,
middle
right,
school and
right.
drive her to the library and
Yeah.
just
I
if
mean,
you
if
can coordinate
they
or have that
want to,
conversation.
I don't know how that would work logistically,
Yeah.
but, we're happy to be a stop on the, on the
Bus
route
line.
if that's something that parents and the Board of Ed would agree to.
Other questions? Kira, thank you to everybody.
Yes.
Hutch, I see you back there for the library team. We really appreciate all you do for our town. It's the best library in Connecticut, if not New England, so thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Genuinely appreciate your support.
Yep, thanks guys,
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
All right. Next up are fire services.
All right.
Thanks again.
Take care, Hutch, thanks.
No, we didn't get the invite this year, did we? What did you say? We didn't do
Bring it
that.
back. You need all of them back.
Okay, so the fire department, or fire division, includes all of our fire departments, fire commission, fire marshal, and our hydrants. Overall, they're up $107,000, about 4.8%, and I want to compliment the departments. They did a really good job, 2.2%, 3.4%, and 2.8%. So they did a great job holding the line on their budgets. In Darien Fire, they're up 2.2%, only about $4,800. The main thing that they have going on there is in their motorized equipment repair line, they're up $5,000. They have some new equipment as well as Hearst testing, the Hearst Tools Jaws of Life, that they need to start spending some money on testing those. In the Norotan Fire Department, they're up $7,900, 3.4%. They're up in their special equipment repair, and that's primarily because of fire pump testing and boat painting. They had been, they have a marine response, and they had been kind of doing boat maintenance as it was needed, but based on recommendation from their vendor, they're going to start doing that on a more regular basis and doing some painting. They're also operating supplies, they're up. They have a unique approach in their operating supplies. All of the departments use multi-gas meters. When they go into a building, you can tell them what gases are in there. And a couple years ago, Norotan was going to replace all of theirs. They had a capital appropriation, but instead they decided to go a subscription route and they're finding that it's working very well for them. They are budgeting for 2 additional meters, but what they've found is they are never down a meter. They don't have to deal with repairs. If there's a problem, they can just swap things out. So that method is working very well for them. And then turnout gear, they're up a little bit, about $3,200, 8.6%. And that's because prices are up on the state contract, but they have been looking at the gear that they use and are looking at less expensive helmets. They were in Heights. They are up $6,700. And what's driving that is snow removal service is up. Budgetarily, it's up $2,500, and it looks weird compared to their actual, but what we did find is that one of their major snow removal invoices was miscoded to, I think, facility repair and maintenance last year. So their actual in fiscal '25 is much more in line with what their request is for fiscal '27. Motorized equipment repair, they have an aging fleet, which just requires more and more maintenance. Facility repair and maintenance, they had an increase in their refuse removal contract, which was somewhat significant. And then they also have an increase in their custodial services. Office supplies are down $1,900. They had a one-time purchase budgeted in fiscal '26, so it bumped up, and now they're going back down to more in line with their historical actuals. And in tires, they're down $3,700, which is 61% for that line. They have no scheduled replacements, but they do budget a little bit in case they need to replace something unexpectedly because of a blowout or anything like that. So in the actual departments, very lean and very minimal increase across them. In the fire commission.
Sorry, just across all 3 departments, I seem to recall that one of them had a consulting project to look at trying to create housing for
Yes.
that middle group, right? So it's not the kids, it's not old people like me, it's kind of 35-year-old, or mainly old people like Bobby is what I meant to say. But that middle group that is old enough to be kind of licensed, but it's got the physical capacity to serve. And so when we talked about that before, we thought, well, if we're going to do that, maybe to have all 3 departments coordinated on that effort, so we'd come up with an aggregate answer about how maybe we could create that housing more than what Groton has done with the purchase of that one house. Where has that ended up, and is that still on the radar, or?
So we did not actually fund that last year.
Okay.
They had requested it, and at that time, I think we all wanted to think about it a little bit more. They do still have out in fiscal '29, it was Norotan Heights who had this on their radar. They do in fiscal '29 have a $3 million placeholder for renovation and volunteer live-in facility, but we don't yet have an appropriation for that study of
Okay.
what we need.
Okay, please.
Fire commission. There's a couple of new things going on in here. Part-time, we talked about this yesterday, that we moved their part-time, that new part-time position over to the finance department. So it looks like a big decrease for them of $30,000, but the bulk of that is the part-time moving over. Software maintenance
And
and
I'm sorry,
support.
that's the fire administrator?
Yeah.
Or is it- Okay.
Software maintenance and support is up $2,700. This goes along with a capital request that they have for a new rapid access system. They have to replace their existing one, and then this is the annual maintenance and support for that system. In telecommunications, the increase there is because IT is going to be upgrading the wide area network at the fire departments. So that's up slightly for that improvement. And then there's the fire marshal. That's our exciting one in the fire department. We do have Bobby here. He is requesting another new position. We had talked about this last year. So he requested it for the full year, and we did talk about if it could be funded for a partial year, and he thinks that's fine based on how all these new units are going to be rolling out and the timing and everything. So I put it in for a half a year. And What you have online, and that we'll go over briefly, is Bobby's spreadsheet showing available resources. So at the moment, if you look on the first page of this, he tracks all of the required inspections, how long they're going to take. We can see that they're increasing year over year. So if we look at the 7/1/26, fiscal 27, 2070 inspections totaling just about 1,560 hours. Then there's all these other things that they do, that they have to do, that add to the amount of time that they need. And he ends up with a total hours needed for his department of about 9,150. Down below, he also is tracking total new units that are expected to be added, so 282 units in fiscal 26 and an additional 36 in fiscal 28. Based on his available time, excuse me, in fiscal 27, if we did not add any positions, and he has here what his total hours are available, backs out for holidays, vacation, that sort of thing. The fact that his assistant director is also the emergency management director and dedicates about 50% of his time to that, there's 7,539 staff hours available. So that's a shortfall of about 1,600 hours if we don't add staff. If we do add staff, fiscal 27 is on the left, fiscal 28 is on the right to show that the staff we're looking to add in fiscal 27 is going to be sufficient going into fiscal 28 as well. In fiscal 27, with the proposed, if it were funded for a full year, we'd have about 9,100 hours available, so a shortfall of about 40 hours, which is manageable for the department. It'll be a little bit less, but some of those new inspections coming on will be timed differently than the full year as well. So we're good if we add a position in fiscal 27. And then in fiscal 28, estimating 9,067 hours available, needing 9,267 to accommodate the additional inspections that are needed, and it leaves a shortfall of only 200, which again is manageable for the department. So with the position that's requested in fiscal 27, it should carry us forward. And we don't anticipate additional staff in fiscal 28.
What is the inspection fee or revenue permit fee coverage of the incremental cost of putting in inspectors like this?
Total revenues for the fire marshal's office are about just under 190,000. The new position has an all-in cost with salary and benefits for a full year of, I'm looking in the wrong place. I didn't print it. Probably about $120,000, $130,000 for full year all-in cost on an inspector.
So my question is a little bit different. So the incremental cost of a new inspector, if you take that person and they're working 2,000 hours a year, and all of that time is being spent on permits, and you think, okay, well, the amount of hours to do an inspection for a permit is X, the average cost of that permit is Y, and I'm just kind of interested in what the fees generated by those inspection hours in terms of its coverage of the cost of that individual. Is it 5%, 20%, 2%?
So the inspections that are required themselves
Right.
are not part of the construction. They are statutorily required to inspect anything other than 1 and 2 family detached homes on a set schedule. A lot of them are on an annual basis, and then there's some that are bi and some that are triannual inspection requirements. So that's the driving, because once these projects are done, we still continue to quote unquote own them in terms of inspections. The building department, once they issue the CO, they're done with that building until somebody comes along and wants to do some type of renovation, addition, whatever, to a property.
But the added inspections you're talking about, these are enduring for the fire.
These are
marshal's
enduring
annual.
for the life of the
They'll never
building.
go away. Okay. Questions on Sarah?
The year-to-date is $300,000.
Yeah.
Revenue?
Yeah.
That's a
Um,
huge jump over
Probably there was,
projected.
One of the-
Baywater.
Yeah.
I think Baywater permits hit, they were supposed to hit last year.
Okay.
And hit this fiscal.
Got it.
So we had some big number of permits that hit
Okay.
this year that were timed.
Oh, that's just when the cash came in for the permits, it's not
Yep.
necessarily when the work was all finished, got it.
Correct.
Okay.
So what do you project for through the end of this year?
Revenue projection?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Off the top of my head, major project-wise, I don't see any large numbers coming in. We're gonna have more tenant fit-ups start to, permit-wise, come in. So those numbers are, the permit cost is $7.50 per $1,000 of work. It's half of what the building permit
Right.
fee is. I don't know exactly what we're gonna be seeing in terms of numbers.
So the bulk, you're saying, is because of Baywater and it's already
The Bay-
passed, so
right,
it's not
the-
coming
yeah,
back?
the-
And you don't foresee, it would be the normal amount of 180,000 per year, which would be maybe another 90,000. So maybe you're at 400,000 instead of 180. Still, yeah,
Yeah.
still twice the amount. Yeah.
All right. Hydrants and water mains, we had talked about this yesterday. I told you that we got the new rates. So Bobby and I conferred today. And, excuse me, the recommendation on this, I was a little more aggressive than Bobby in my assessment. But where we settled was that we think that we should bring this down to $500,000, which is a $20,000 reduction from what's in the budget here. Some of those rates are unknown. The rate notice that they give us actually runs calendar years, so we have to make some assumptions about the second half of the year. And some of the information that they put on there is what they have requested in terms of rate changes, but nothing is finalized yet on some of those. And then on the revenue side, in the fire marshal's office, you did recently approve a change to their fee schedule, and that is incorporated in here. That's the additional $6,000 on base fire marshal revenue. Any questions on operating? All right. Capital. First one up is Darien Fire Department. They don't have much. They are requesting their $5,000 small capital. And the only other item that they have is $150,000 for HVAC replacement. They need to replace pretty much all of the HVAC equipment that is up on their roof. It is failing. They do not have air conditioning in the building. And I did ask Brian how old it is, and it's pretty old.
Is this for this year?
Fiscal 27.
Can you scroll up a little bit? It's hard to see.
Oops, sorry.
It's okay. Oh, thank you. Okay.
And the age, they believe it's from the early 90s. So definitely old, in need of repair, in need of replacement, showing signs of failing, and they have a lack of air conditioning. But that is their only request, in addition to the small capital. New Ribbon Fire Department. They have their small capital request. Mobile radio replacement is a purchase of the radio and installation for the chief's vehicle. Sorry, I have things in different piles. So $12,000 requested for that. The current radio is about 15 years old, past its useful life, and that model is no longer supported. It can be an issue with mutual aid. They need a tri-band radio so that they can speak with other towns and have mutual aid. That's the purchase and the install. Supply and attack hose, $34,000. Current hose is at the end of its useful life. Increased risk of failure after 10 years of use, and they are approaching that level, or that age. Looking to replace some different lengths, which will be put on engine 32, which is scheduled to be delivered in this summer. The current hose there is actually 20 years old. Current hose on engine 32 is 20 years old and in urgent need of repair. Replacement. And then their other requests. Replace of rescue, life, safety, and rope. This is $15,000. Their current life-saving rope and rescue equipment is approaching 10 years, and it must be taken out of service at 10 years. So they're approaching that, and if they reach that mark, they will be without any life-saving rope. That's an NFPA standard. So they're requesting $15,000 to replace safety rope and equipment. They also are requesting $15,000 for replacement of the one-story flat roof on their building. It's over 30 years old. They've seen an increase in leaks and drainage issues. They did have a contractor come out, and they were told that repair is not an option and that they must replace it. Energy audit improvements. They were looking for energy efficiencies, and they had the Eversource Energy Audit Professionals come out and conduct a energy audit. And this is, they're requesting funds for the Tier 2 proposal, which is $24,226. They're requesting $25,000 in case it's a little bit different. There will be a rebate of $10,832, but that's paid after the work is completed. So we have to budget the full amount, and then when the rebate comes in, that'll be a revenue into the reserve for capital non-recurring. In addition, the estimated annual savings on energy is $5,000 per year. So for the cost of a $25,000 project with a $10,000 rebate and $5,000 savings per year, it's a pretty good return. Turnout gear dryer for $17,000. Right now, the dryer that they have, there's a state requirement that they have to clean their gear on a regular basis and post exposure to contaminants. So after training, after a fire, that is mandatory. They can wash 2 sets of gear every hour and a half, but they can only dry 2 sets of gear at a time, and the process takes almost 24 hours to dry the 2 sets and get them back into rotation. What they are looking to do is buy a different dryer. They've created some space for it, and this dryer would allow them to dry up to 6 sets of gear in under 12 hours. That would get it back into rotation sooner, and they would have all the gear they need in the event of an emergency. Next one is $11,000 for an air compressor. Their current one is about 50 years old. It does run the air horn alert system. So in the event of radio failure, they use the air horn alert system. If the compressor went down, they wouldn't have the air horn alert system. This one is significantly smaller. They're going to be able to move some things around, and it will get them more floor space on the truck floor. And the air compressor is also used for tools, tires on the apparatus, and like I said, the air horn. And then their last one is a catch-up on replacement of SCBA cylinders. They have a total of 45. There's a 15-year lifespan. They try to replace 3 cylinders per year and work on smoothing that out. Because there was a time in the past when it wasn't purchased smoothly, there's an uptick in expiring cylinders. 10 are expiring in 2026, 20 more in 2030, and they are going to try to level out those purchases over the next few years. Roden Heights. $5,000 for small capital. $25,000 for thermal imaging cameras. They are looking to replace 4 thermal imaging cameras. They're about 10 to 15 years old. They use them every day. Total, they have 10 cameras. They have 2 on a ladder, and those are about 5 years old. The rest of them are older. They want to buy the same type, not the same type, new technology compared to what they have, which is current is outdated, near the end of its useful life, and these cameras are used to identify hotspots. They are definitely a safety mechanism for our firefighters. And water rescue equipment, they are looking to replace 4 water rescue suits that they use on a regular basis. The suits have begun to fail, so increased exposure potential. They're also looking to replace their inflatable boat. It has shown signs of disrepair and the rubber is degrading. So with replacement of the suits and the boats, they'll have greater safety for their rescuers and ability to perform the water rescues.
Bobby? So you can buy a boat and 4 suits for $15,000?
It's a inflatable Zodiac type boat,
Right. Okay.
so I don't know the overall cost of the boat, but far less than buying a regular boat.
Right. Okay, great.
Fire Commission. I have been working with them on updating the fire apparatus schedule. We want to provide a little more information for you and account for when the apparatus needs to be requested in order to take delivery when they need it because of the longer lead times on apparatus. So what we have right now is not here. I'll post it, but they are requesting 1.6 million for engine 41 and for engine 42 in the current fiscal 26-27. Based on the lead time, I would actually like to pull those requests up and request them in the current year because those apparatus are nearing the end of their useful life, and with the length of time it takes to get an engine, we'll be pushing past the expected useful life. But those are ones that we would bond, and when we come to you, we'll have the new and improved apparatus schedule that accounts for that timing. We'll roll it all out to you. And this would be a separate request that they would come and do a presentation for you as they seek the appropriation. They do have a couple of other replacements in the out years, 1.9 million in 27-28 and 1 million in 28-29. For regular capital, they are requesting $135,000 to pave the parking lot up at the training ground. They are finishing up the building that is up there. After that, they have money in the current year for extending the concrete pad. So this is the sequence. They would finish the building, they would extend the pad, and then they would repave the whole area. They don't want to do any paving until the work is done up there because there has been some damage to it as they've been working on the building, the classroom building, and from several years ago when they worked on the smoke building. The quote is based on conversations with DPW. They did speak with Ed about any potential for coordinating with paving, but it's a very unique project, and most of the time when Ed is paving streets, it doesn't work to also have them pave any kind of other parking lot or anything like that, but they did ask and they got DPW input on the amount. Rapid access system, this is the one that ties into the operating request. It's $45,000. The rapid access system, it allows them to quickly access commercial properties or multi-residential properties. In Darien, there's 175 properties that participate, and basically there's like a lockbox. It allows them to get in without force. If there's an emergency, they don't have to wait for a key because the fire departments have access. But that particular system is no longer going to be supported. It's being discontinued in December of 2026. So the $45,000 gets them what they need installed in fire department and fire marshal vehicles. The residential and commercial properties would be responsible for purchasing their own lockbox type item that goes along with this new system.
I'm sorry, just a little lost. So for $45,000, what's going, it's just then for something to be in the fire marshal vehicles?
So it's in, for each piece of fire apparatus, it's basically a lockbox for the key so that the keys are secured at all times. When the key is removed, there's a code that has to be put in, transmits a signal to the cloud, releases the key. They can then access the boxes on the building. If the key is loose and lost, it becomes basically the proverbial key to the city. Because it's one key that will open every box in town. So it's a secured system for it, and in terms of number of vehicles, I want to say it's like for 20 vehicles for the $45,000 for each.
And then is this equipment then mated to the particular vehicle? And then if we have to upgrade or buy a new vehicle, does it then require another new system
No.
like that?
It is the
You
same.
just pick it up and put it in another?
Yep, install, remove, remove and reinstall.
And this is all as opposed to knocking down doors?
Correct. So the current system we've had in for nearly 30 years was originally by Supra, who does a lot of real estate lock boxes. The division that they had for the fire service, they have sold off. The company that owns them now has decided that they're no longer going to support it. They're no longer going to be in that portion of the business. So it kind of got dropped on us with terrible notice because we found out when somebody went to purchase a box and they called us back. The person looking to buy the box called us and said, I'm being told I can't buy these boxes. So we had to reach out. So now this is where we are. Everybody who currently has a box with a lid on it will have to purchase a new replacement lid, and it's a retrofit lid for the boxes that we already have. And then anybody building new buildings will have to purchase the new Knox box system.
How much is it for each of the buildings?
For the box and so the lid itself, the retrofit lids are about $200 plus shipping.
Okay, so it shouldn't be a significant issue for these
Correct.
buildings.
When they purchase the whole box and the lid for any new buildings, I think they're around $400 and something.
And then another thing, I apologize, with these systems, might they also then require software upgrades?
So that is part of the subscription service, the cloud-based subscription software that is in the operating account in the Fire Commission.
So Bobby, it's a volunteer fire department, and this really benefits the residents, so they pay for the lockbox. Has there ever been any thought to they pay for this also?
It would have to
Be a logistic nightmare.
logistically be able to figure out a way to bill everybody on an annual basis for, on a prorated
Right.
basis for the service.
All right, anything else on Fire Commission?
Yeah, I would just like to see a fresh start from zero presentation on the fire apparatus replacement schedule. I'd like to see kind of what the logic is. I'd like to see the criteria that are used to determine when a truck is nearing end of life and it's time to replace it. And I'd like to see kind of the schedule. I'd like an update on how long it's taking to order this equipment, and just take a fresh, soup to nuts look at the fire replacement plan, theory, schedule, forecast, all of that for every fire vehicle that's in the replacement schedule. I'd like to see all of that at once. We have to do that right away, or even part of this budget process, but sometime in the next 2 or 3 months, have somebody from the Fire Commission come in and give a complete presentation on that. I'd like to, it's been a while since we've looked at it carefully, and I think we should do that again.
We can arrange that. Last capital for fire is the fire marshal's office. He had requested originally a vehicle for the new position and mobile and portable radios to go with it. But speaking with Bobby and with the town's mechanic, we can get by, especially with the position being planned to start in January, we can get by for 6 months. And that's also part of what I was talking about yesterday, where we want to look at the fleet as a whole and take stock of all the vehicles that we have and where we can deploy them and how best to deploy them. So those are on hold, but can still function with the new position if that's funded. Turnout gear is for fire marshal staff, replacement of existing, as well as additional new PPE for the addition of the position. So $6,200. There's one more year in 27-28 for that replacement schedule. And then we get a couple years off. That is it for fire. Unless anybody has questions for Bobby?
Questions on fire?
I have no question, but I kind of have an ask. This board, God willingly, will be sitting here in a year from now or in 6 months from now, and what I'd really like to do is have a full walking tour of these fire departments, going in and being able to look at the equipment and what they have and what they do. I think we sit up here and we don't really have a comprehensive understanding of kind of the logistics and the equipment and everything that you have there, and we're just kind of making some really heavy financial decisions based on all of this stuff that we really have no knowledge of. So I would love to just spend a day with you guys and go to all 3 departments and see what happens. Like, how do you make it happen? How does it work?
Not in the winter, can we not?
That's why I said let's do this in June, right? Not in the heat.
HVAC gets
After the HVAC.
After the HVAC.
a lovely April day or October, you know.
I along with Sarah, all right.
So just so I understand, and I apologize for not asking, when you were talking about Norotan, so is that air conditioning system, is it fully not working, or is it just in need of repair? I think I kind of missed.
That is, DFT.
DFT, yeah.
DFT, Darren, right.
Yep, to my knowledge, their HVAC is on its last legs.
Yeah.
The AC portion of it is no longer functioning,
Okay.
and it's a little over 30 years old.
And I saw one roof replacement for $15,000. Is that?
Flat roof at Norotan Fire Department.
Yep.
They were.
Seems a little light.
So
It's a small area,
it's a
right?
small flat roof.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a large roof, and the plan was to repair it and then down the road replace it when they did the main building roof. Contractor came out, looked at it, and said it's got to be replaced. And it's part of an addition that was put on the building in the late '60s.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, Bobby, thank you. I need to call a recess to go down and talk to the Board of Finance, so I will do that. And anybody's welcome to come down and watch or go on a break or whatever you'd like to do.
Class trip.
Sure, field trip.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Bobby. Which room, 119?
Yes. The resolution for the Great Island Parking Project just passed the Board of Finance unanimously, so we're in good shape. All right, Jennifer.
DPW. DPW management and engineering is really a status quo budget. It is up $4,500, 1%. What we do have going on in here, I can't get that quite right. They had one retirement in the department, and we are looking to fill that position. It'll be filled at a lower salary. That's why there's only about a 1% increase. It's salary driven. Roadway and walkway maintenance, motorized equipment repair is up. That is a result of using outside vendors a little bit more, as well as an increase in parts. Electricity is up throughout the budget. What we did in fiscal -- in anticipation of the public benefits charge going away, that didn't fully go away. We gambled a little bit and brought those budgets down. You'll see them throughout the budget and in the departments going back up. We do have a locked-in supply rate That just changed, it went up on 12/4/25, it's for 3 years. We have a locked-in rate, but it does get reevaluated, and so if for some reason there were a big drop in energy rates, we'd be able to take advantage of that, but for now, we're locked in for 3 years. Motor fuels and lubricants were actually down about $13,000. Another one where we participate with the Capital Region Council of Governments. They do a big fuel bid. Many municipalities in the state participate, and so we were able to lock in a rate that's lower than what we have in the current year. For tires, they do need loader tires this year, as you can see in the history. There's some years where it spikes, and that's really just a function of what apparatus need tire replacement. Ice control materials are up about $14,000. It's about 19%, and that is because the unit cost for ice control has gone up.
Ed, do you buy the same amount every year?
Really depends on what we have left in the salt dome. We're a little low right now.
Right, okay.
But,
You're
yeah.
okay on salt supply, though? There's been a shortage statewide. Are we, as a town, in trouble, or we're okay in your view for a while? I know it depends, but.
We're okay right now. Just hope it doesn't snow for a little while. They're predicting barges to come in yesterday, tomorrow, next week, but we went and grabbed 100 tons from another supplier that we could find, just to keep us, in a safer mode, in my opinion. But we do need some salt.
Waste management, we're up 31%, $10,000 in professional services. That is where we have credit card fees. You can see a big jump in, a little bit of a jump in 24, then a big jump in 25, and the department started offering credit card payment to their larger haulers, and so the dollar amount is significantly more, and as a result, we have higher credit card fees. I think the credit card usage has been pretty popular with them. Solid waste disposal services up 8.8%. This is the one that just keeps going up and up and up. We were at 1.1 million in fiscal 23. We're up to just under 1.9 million requested for fiscal 27. It's about, it's based on a 10% increase in volume, correct? But there is a corresponding increase on the revenue side. So this one we continue to chase the right number, and people just want to bring their trash here. Public building management is up. Public building management up 4.6%, which is $42,000. We have the issue with electricity in this one as well. Software is also up. It's a small amount, but it's about 15%. There's a new contract with Automated Logic, who's the building control system. So that's driving that. Facility repair and maintenance, cost of HVAC and boiler maintenance is up, and then electricity we've gone over. Parking in the general fund is where we have the Coons lot. So it looks like a big increase, almost a little over $23,000, 38.7%. Big number here is professional services. This is credit card fees that we're anticipating from the transactions at the Coons lot. There was very little daily parking in the general fund before. This is a significant increase for that. So we're making an estimate on those. Telecommunications and electricity we never had in this division before, but the Coons lot does have both of those services, so we are budgeting for a year's worth. But those definitely have a revenue increase. On the revenue side, in public works management and engineering, this is where we have the town aid road grant. I went over it briefly yesterday. Based on the governor's proposed, we can bump this one up $117,554. We're on track this year. We budgeted based on what we had gotten the year before. And then my budget was based on what our budget is this year, but we received our first half recently. It's $227,000. So we'll receive about $450,000 in the current year on a budget of $337,000. Operating transfer for sewer operating is up $39,000, 52.2%. That is the debt service cost for our sewer debt. It transfers over from the sewer operating fund and into the general fund because we budget all of the debt service in the general fund. Waste management revenues, this is where we see the increase that offsets the expenditure increase. We did have two line items. We created the refuse tip fees recyclables a couple years ago. We haven't been crediting anything there because all of the revenue is coming in together. It's not separated out on the check that comes in on some other refuse tip fees that we get. So it's challenging to go through and reconcile it. So we're combining the two accounts in the current year. Together, they are up about $340,000, and that's based on volume. And then recently, DPW did bring through a fee increase, so that's contributing a little bit to the increase. Public building management is status quo, flat to the current year. And then parking operations is where we have revenue from the Coons lot. Parking pay stations, we're up $397,000. What we assumed with the Coons lot is that we would take in $8,000 per week. That was based off of what we were seeing in November and December. I think it still holds. What do we have, about 200 parkers on a heavy day?
Looked like that today, yeah.
Fridays are still light,
Very light.
but Monday through Thursday are pretty heavy.
And we don't charge anything we don't have any daily on the weekends, right?
Right, weekends and holidays are no charge.
And is that about, you thinking about 75% full at 8 a week?
From what I saw this morning, I'd say it was about 70–75% full, yeah. 3/4 of it was full.
So this assumes that we keep it as a daily lot for the next year and at $10 per day.
You know, just to add to that, so the chaos of the Darien train station construction should come to an end. Are we still bidding September end?
Optimistically.
Right. Ed and I are optimistic.
By the end of the year, I'm hoping that they're out of there, or out of our way.
All right. So in the meantime, while all that's we're trying to get that settled down, trying to get the Coons lot settled down, I've been fiddling with a parking strategy document. It's mostly going through some administrative stuff right now about things Jen would like to see. Ann downstairs, who is our parking lot director, she spent a lot of time on it, and it's mainly around some technical requirements that we are trying to sort through, all with an eye towards integrating the management of all these lots better and getting rid of our parking hanging tags. So that is still on the list. As soon as I get something that's in shape, I'd like to share it more broadly and get input, and we'll try to get public input on that as well, because there's been a lot of public questions around, for example, do we make the Coons lot a permit lot? Do we change the parameters with which we do parking, permit versus daily parking? Anyway, all that's going to be in this note, which I'll share publicly, but it gives you a sense of some strategic options that we have. But one of the issues we do need to address is the daily rate at the Coons lot is still twice the daily rate of all of our other commuter daily lots. And that'll be something in there that we'll think about. But that's why Jennifer's just left it at $10 for now. There's not a basis to forecast a change yet, but just keep in mind that's something we may adopt. I don't see us increasing the rate in the current daily lots to match what's in the Coons lot.
But it could be, if we make changes, half of that revenue.
True, but we could change permit fees. We could do lots of other things.
Right,
I'm not
right.
intending on trying to create a financial
Because
problem.
that's not, that line item is not Coons lot, that's in entirety.
Correct. But,
Well,
no,
the
that's
parking
just
pay
a-
stations, 400,000 of the 410 is the Coons lot.
yeah.
Oh.
We have very little daily parking that is in town-owned lots that is primarily in state-owned lots where we have daily parking. We do have the permit fees in town lots, 250,000. So
Right.
there might be some switch in that combination of the
Got
two,
it.
depending on what you decide to do with Coons.
But I would just say that what's going to be interesting about this proposal is that it goes way beyond just these types of things. And anyway, I recently also wrote a piece that I'll share that did some benchmarking against what other towns charge for daily, permit, all that stuff. So you'll get a chance to see that pretty soon. I've been distracted.
Good. I know New Canaan just completely revamped their entire downtown parking structure.
Yeah, they went to charging for downtown
They did
parking.
everywhere.
Yeah, and that's something we
Curious to see how that
can
transition
consider.
goes.
That's
they-
getting some major blowback.
I can imagine.
There's a lot of blowback. It has freed up downtown parking. People would just park there and stay,
Yes.
and now they can't do that. But it's created problems in other areas, and Monica's right. I'm not sure I would want to adopt what they've done.
I think
In fact,
they,
I'm very sure I
Well, we
would.
can learn from.
yeah, I think they
learn
have a
from it.
2-hour, and that, I
Yeah.
think that's,
Anyway, more to come. I don't want to distract this meeting too much.
Okay, anything else on DPW parking before we switch over to capital, or DPW operating?
I've one, Ed, on recyclables. That looks like that's been flat for the last couple of years. And I know that we stopped getting paid on some stuff, but, do we have any contracts coming up, or
Is it okay if I come up to the table?
please?
Recyclable, the rebates that we're getting?
Yeah,
For the last 2 years, it's actually been pretty good. We're getting like $130,000 per
35.
year.
yeah.
That's our contract with Wind Waste right now. To be honest with you, that's a little above their prediction from when
Right.
we took on the contract. So I'm at loss. What's your question? Is it, do I predict it's gonna
When
stay the
does that
same?
contract expire?
5 years, and it has a 5-year option to pick up after that.
Okay, and when's that 5-year up?
2029,
Okay,
I believe.
okay.
Yes, 2029.
All right, moving on to capital. Public Works is definitely one of our big capital departments. Wrong way. So starting at the top. Replacement of a large dump truck. This one is a 2016 Freightliner. This is an approach that DPW has been taking. It's reached the end of its useful life, suffered deterioration in multiple mechanical locations, and they're trying to be more cost effective and plan out replacements on a 10 to 15 year life cycle depending on the equipment. They have looked at repairing the trucks, but it's hard to find parts for these older vehicles. New sidewalks. We have new sidewalks and sidewalk rehab. The $250,000 that is requested for new sidewalks, no particular locations in mind, but this is so that we have money to address recommendations that come out of the new advisory committee. So these could be used for consulting services to produce design plans, permitting, producing bidding documents, and construction drawings, as well as construction, depending on what comes out of those recommendations from the advisory committee. $750,000 for sidewalk rehab. This has been an ongoing program. It does begin to taper off in the out years, down to $500,000 in fiscal '28, and then down to $150,000 and $100,000 in the out years there. This is to allow continued work to address uneven, deteriorated sidewalk surfaces. That definitely protects us from claims related to falls. And we will be using up the remainder of our existing appropriation this year, and DPW aims to do about $500,000 to $750,000 of sidewalk repair per year. But we've been at that level for a while and gotten quite a bit done. Paving, $1,432,000. This is the annual paving amount, a little bit more than last year when we spent $1.4 million. Excuse me, and what I didn't ask Ed is how many miles do you think that's going to get us?
5.1.
So this keeps us on track with DPW's policy for resurfacing on a 20-year life cycle. Tree replacement program, we do this every year. It's similar to the tree replacement program that we have in Park and Rec. It's so that they can replace trees that had to be removed or were lost to storm events. Locations are determined each year by request from residents or observation or recommendation from DPW staff.
Jen, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
4.4 miles.
4.4.
5.1 was last year.
Small capital, their annual $5,000 allotment. Camp Ave Bridge, design and repair for scour. Scour protection, this is for scour protection for the bridge abutments. This protects the abutments and minimizes the possibility of a bridge replacement project in the future. These funds are for construction, and the $50,000 that you see in fiscal '26 was for the design. So $50,000 for design and $120,000 in this year for the construction. Renovation of the fire marshal's office. We talked about the new position for the fire marshal that's needed because of all the multi-unit housing that's come into town and the number of inspections that goes along with it. Along with that is a space constraint in the fire marshal's office. The way their office is set up, there's a main area and then you can go kind of a little back area. That back area is what we would like to renovate. They don't have room to take on more staff in that area. As is, it used to be an IT server room. When we did a minimal renovation to put some office space back there, it wasn't fully renovated to serve as office space. So there's improper ventilation if we were to put more staff back there. The big unknown is HVAC and mechanical needs. We looked at utilizing other space in town hall, and all of our space is needed. So the best way is to renovate this space and maximize the use of it. The $75,000 request is based on an expected design cost of $15,000, and minimum for construction and outfitting is an estimate of $60,000. We really can't get a true construction estimate until we can have someone come in and fully review the space and really take a look at the HVAC and mechanical needs, because that's beyond our ability to estimate. Town Hall, Mather, HVAC control system upgrades. Mather Center, their building control system has reached the end of its useful life, and DPW would like to change that system over to match what the current system is for Town Hall and the Police Department. There's some potential cost savings from more favorable contract terms with the vendor, and then just consistency in the way those buildings are controlled.
How old is the system?
When did they move in there? 2015?
12 years old, that system.
Is that a normal length of time for?
The system that Train
Seems
has over
short,
there.
so I don't know.
It does, but the software upgrades, now it's tough for us to get parts for the damper systems that are in place. So not only is the software inadequate to handle what we want to do, but it doesn't handle the ventilation that we need to control.
Right, thanks.
Also at the Mather Center, water heater replacement. They have 5 units in their on-demand water heating system. Currently, two of those units are out of service and in need of repair. They have reached the end of their useful life. It's expected that the other 3 units may fail soon. They did look at repairing them, but already repair costs have been too high to be considered as a long-term solution, so we are looking to replace those. And that is $20,000. $50,000 for town hall carpet replacement. This would replace carpet in the second floor offices. They did look at other surfaces, hardwood, vinyl, tile, but maintenance and replacement costs are prohibitive, so we'll stick with the commercial grade carpet. And this is important because when it starts to pull up, we do face tripping hazards, and that could be a liability for us.
It's also for sound attenuation.
Yeah,
That's another big thing. It's
very
loud.
important. The next two, Town Hall AC replacement. West End and East End, both at $160,000. In general, Town Hall has required constant upgrades and repairs to our AC system. Our whole HVAC has been challenging. DPW has done multiple temporary repairs over the last 3 years just to get us by, but we have reached the end of that approach. Current equipment is 40 years old, and so what we are looking to do is replace the rooftop units on East and West are both rooftop, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So both the east and west end of the building. We have had to put fans out in the hallway when the AC wasn't working. Those cost about $10,000. Other repairs that we've put in have been $26,000 so far. With the newer models, we do expect there might be some reduction in electricity and that we would be better able to manage the whole system.
It's time.
If you say no to this, John is
No.
not gonna be happy.
Yeah, you can, no.
It's really bad.
It's bad. It's uncomfortable for everybody. It's time.
So is it just because the units are not working, or the entire ductwork system needs to be replaced?
The ductwork system is okay now. When we went to the software system, we went and changed all the dampers from
Okay.
that hydrostatic to mechanical. So those are working. It's the units upstairs providing the cool air. They're not functioning.
So add the noise in the first selectman office, that's gone now?
No, it's actually gonna stay, even with the new units.
You're making it louder.
I'll probably be looking for work. I'm gonna be looking for work if I put that back in there. It will be able to, the new systems will be able to decrease the flow when it's not needed. And that will help that noise a lot.
But that heating noise gets to stay, right?
The radiator one is,
Right?
this is the steam
It's
building.
classic.
That's
It's-
charming, though. That's okay.
It's
So
classic.
I'm good with that.
I inherited a very old building.
I know you do. It's not your fault.
It comes with its own noises.
They put sound deafening tiles on the ceiling.
They did put those into my
I
office.
did.
Restaurants.
I think they were trying to deaden me from talking.
That's why they were
It didn't
made of
work, of course.
Next one is $100,000 for the gym entrance, the elevated walkway here at Town Hall. There is deterioration of the sidewalk bridge at the gym entrance. In fiscal '26, funds were set aside for the design. We had $25,000 for design in '26, and '27 is $100,000 for the construction. I do want to point out that that bridge is the only direct ADA access, ADA compliant access to that end of the building unless you go through the Mather Center and take the elevator. So it is important that we maintain access in that area.
And Jen, so the total cost for that should be 125 then?
Well, we already have the 25 appropriated, and then that was for the design, and the 100,000.
I feel like that earlier, maybe there was an earlier project and the cost included, the total project cost included the design fee.
Yep. Lighting upgrades, LED in town hall parking lots, $25,000. Majority of town hall parking lots are not LED. Some have been upgraded when a repair was needed or when there was a change out of a fixture, but we have 22 fixtures that remain to be converted. The $25,000 will convert those. And this is really important. It improves the safety in the parking lots. They are dim. The LEDs will light the back a lot better. It's definitely a problem when, in the spring and the fall, when it's dusk as people are coming for sports and town hall employees are leaving, it's difficult to see people who might be darting in between the cars. Salt box drainage improvements, title search. We have nearly completed the design of salt box. We used ARPA funds for that, $200,000. And what has come out of that is The work to be done will require some easements, some permanent, some temporary. And so we need to start doing title search and appraisal costs on those easements. This $25,000 will cover 26 title searches that need to be done. And the last one is Darien Harbor dredging. We have talked about this for a while. I will say this is a placeholder number. It's based on the cost of dredging at Pear Tree. We definitely need a firmer number. We would have to put this out to bid to get the final number. But the harbor was last dredged in 2001. The area that we need to dredge, this is beyond what's being done is from Pear Tree, and it's out in the main channel. Total area is approximately 3 acres, about 11,000 cubic yards of material. It has been tested. It's clean enough to be disposed of in Long Island Sound at their disposal site. And we have gotten state approval of the project. And Army Corps of Engineer approval is expected by mid-March of this year. The state approval imposes some restrictions on what time of year the work can occur, but we do have 5 years to complete the work. The work to date was done with a $25,000 appropriation for a consultant that was managed by Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters. The consultant conducted sediment sampling and testing and has done the state and federal permit applications. Like I said, the $2 million is really more of a placeholder, just based on Pear Tree Point, and we won't know the final cost until we put it out to bid. Any question on DPW capital before we dive into sewer, parking, and the Great Island Fund?
Boy, that's a big number, huh?
Yes. So that's another one, along with the 2 fire engines that we would expect to bond, so we wouldn't tax for that in the current year. But this is to get it on your radar that it's coming. We do have 5 years to complete the work. It's not imperative that it be done in 26, 27, so if you think that moving that around a little bit would help on either debt or cash flow or something like that, that's a possibility too, but we're at the beginning of that 5 years, and now we have a window.
So I know I asked this about Pear Tree, but have we reached out to the boat club members to see if there's any interest in participating?
We haven't. That was brought up when we went for the $25,000 appropriation. I can make a note of that, and John and I can discuss how we might want to approach that.
Charlie.
Perfect timing.
We're all just going to sit here and listen to it while you...
I think John stepped out to turn it on.
He did. He's over there
He
banging
found a way
pots
to
on
get
the
on
other
my
side.
computer and turn the heat on.
That's all the heat that should have been 119.
Just out of a logistics question, why didn't we consider doing the harbor dredging at the same time that we were doing the Pear Tree Point dredging? Would there have been like a
Different permit timing.
Okay.
I think they started on the permit process for Pear Tree before
They did, yeah.
Darien Harbor was kind of thought of. So we don't even have Corps of Engineers approval yet, so that would have held up Pear Tree.
Got it.
And then you would have been out of the permit window.
Okay.
All right.
That's a bummer because it was so messy.
But it's done, and it was done on
Yeah.
time.
But can they take this stuff out?
This they can't. They can
Okay,
take it out.
they don't have to bring it back into the roads and
Nope, they
parking
can dump it in
lots,
the
or just
sound.
get
It's
it out of
tested
here?
clean enough.
Okay.
All right, sewer fund. So just as a reminder, the sewer fund is paid for through the sewer fees. And the total budget requested in fiscal '27 is $5.4 million, $5,418,438. It's a $729,000 increase, 15.6%. I'll go through it, but that is not actual increase in expenditures. This one is actually being driven by the revenue estimate, assuming the current rates and the current volumes is resulting in a large increase in expected revenue collection. And so on the expenditure side, we have about a $700,000 contribution to fund balance. So if those rates held and everything held on the budget, we would not be spending that money. It would be going into the fund balance for the sewer fund. Why doesn't this work? So sewer administration is where we see that contribution. And it really is just to balance the budget because the current rates are set and the sewer authority has the control over those. But everything else in sewer administration is fairly flat. The contribution is $735,000 to balance the budget. On all the other areas, we're up $10,000, 2% in sewer material collection and treatment. We are down $264,000 in our sewer treatment equipment. That's our payment to Stanford. That's an estimate, and it does get trued up later in the year. General overhead and miscellaneous is up $249,000. And what is driving that is our transfer to other funds. What goes through here is the transfer that we saw that was a revenue in DPW for sewer-related debt. And then the other piece of this is a transfer out to sewer capital. And then the sewer capital. A lot of these are routine annual expenses. First one that we have is pump replacement equipment for $75,000. This would be done at multiple stations, prioritized from larger to smaller pump sizes. This would include new control equipment, gate valves, and backflow valves, which would eliminate continued running of the pumps and provide a more energy efficient system. The next one is sewer main, CCTV, and cleaning. We do this every year, and this is used to identify issues and eliminate the chance of clogged pipes and sanitary sewer overflows because of obstructions in the system. Chemical root control, $60,000 in the current year, and that is actually similar. It's a treatment to make sure that we don't have blockage due to roots. Sewer jetter, collection system rehab for $25,000. That's money to be able to repair and replace any part of the sewer main or infrastructure that is found to be in disrepair through the CCTV and cleaning. Or through the SSES program. What is SSES?
That's the I&I program,
Ah,
where we do video camera also work and we find some of the breaks.
and then the final one is $125,000 for sewer jetter and a trailer. And this equipment would be obtained to perform regular or emergency cleaning of the piping as needed using our own workforce. If we did not purchase this, we would have to have an outside vendor come in and do that work. So we have a considerable amount of funds in the sewer fund and would like to actually buy that equipment. Any questions on sewer? All right, we're gonna hit parking capital because we're here and it's one item. $75,000 for resurfacing of the drop-off area at New Roten Heights Railroad Station. This is the last piece of the repaving at New Roten Heights, correct?
That's correct.
parking operations is a very simple fund. This is where we account for all of the revenues and expenses associated with the state lots. Total budget is $937,000, a decrease of just over $6,800 or down 0.7%. Parking lot administration is down $115, so minimal change there. This is where we pay for Ann, who's our parking administrator, and kind of some administrative expenses and overhead. Parking operations and maintenance, we have 1.5 FTEs dedicated to this. It's our rangers. In professional services, we're down $8,000. That's credit card fees associated with transaction in the state lots, and that's just bringing it down in line with historical actuals. Facility repair and maintenance, we have a new elevator contract at Darien Railroad. So that is up $8,000, 22%. The other big driver here is transfer to other funds, and that is a function of gross revenues. Our expired state contract, or state lease that we still follow the terms of, requires that we transfer at least 20% of gross revenues to the capital fund. So we start with that number, we kind of use this to balance the budget.
Hey Jen, how many parking rangers do we have? We have 2 now?
Right, we have a crew leader and a ranger. And one of them is 100% dedicated to the parking fund, the other is 50-50 with the general fund and the parking fund.
And are they full-time?
Yes. Parking revenues, not much change year over year. We have permit revenue, pay station revenue. Like I said, the bulk of the daily pay is here. Parking tickets, which have been ticking up a bit. We've adjusted the budget a little bit. I think we're a little, I hate to say optimistic on tickets, but we were a little high in this year's budget, so we've brought that down. That is it for parking. Any questions? All right, Great Island Fund, that's Ed's last one. This is where we account for revenues and expenses associated with Great Island. We do this so that we can have a good, easy view of them, but also in the event that we ever start doing activities out there that generate significant revenue, we need to be able to track our revenues and expenses for determining if we need to convert bonds to taxable because of private use. So it's really important that we separate these and that we are tracking that. There is a decrease of $48,000. The total budget this year is requested $292,518. It's a 14.2% decrease. While we don't have activity out there, there's still a lot of maintenance that has to occur. The biggest item here, I think, is our groundskeeping. It's about $125,000, down a little bit because we got some favorable bids, but groundskeeping service is a significant expense for Great Island. Additionally, facility repair and maintenance is budgeted at $80,000. So while the buildings are vacant, we still have to maintain them, and actually maintenance can go up because they're vacant. So we're budgeting $80,000 for that. We do have some decrease in utilities because we can bring temperatures down and that sort of thing with the buildings not being occupied. And we have a decrease in professional services, a minimal decrease. And legal services is down a bit because we don't have tenant issues. This fund is supported by its existing fund balance, so we have projected where we think the current year will end. Expenses are tracking lower than budget, and we did not anticipate having the one renter that renewed for this fiscal year. So in the current year, we're bringing in more than we had expected, which will generate a fund balance, but the remainder has to come from the general fund. So we are anticipating a fund balance at the end of this year of just over 101,000, and then the balance 191 would be a transfer from the general fund.
How much of the maintenance is on the great house, if you know?
How much is the
The
maintenance?
I mean, how much
The
are we
maintenance.
spending to maintain that structure,
Probably out of all the facilities, it's the draw on the oil to keep it warm during the winter.
right?
But that's not the biggest expense cost. It's the fixing of the underground utilities that we've had to do. 3 water main breaks and 1 electric power loss. Those are some pretty big bills that we gotta pay.
Okay, thank you.
And Ed, because that tenant moved out, you're shutting down the heat over there, right?
We didn't turn off the heat in any of those buildings.
You didn't?
We just trying to keep it around 50.
Turned it way down? Okay.
The reason is some of the older piping systems, if I shut them down and drain them, and then try to pressurize them later, I'll be dealing with the leaks that go along with them. So we made a conscious decision just to keep the temperature as low as we could with the boilers on through the wintertime and see how that reacts.
You don't want any frozen pipes.
We would drain the system, but the problem is when you
When you
re-energize
restart it,
them
yeah.
again,
Right, no, it's, yeah.
yeah.
All right, that is all that we have that's associated with DPW.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Transfers out to other funds is a very simple one because the only transfer out that we have is, oddly enough, $191,000 to the Great Island Fund. So that's just the general fund contribution over to that fund that we just talked about.
All right.
Risk management. This is where we have workers' comp, property insurance, heart and hypertension, cyber, those kinds of things. A couple years ago, I guess in fiscal '25, we consolidated all of these other small lines into just a general liability, auto and property insurance account. What we have right now shown is an increase of $13,000. But as I mentioned last night, we do need to bring HHR back onto our LAP policy. When construction started, through the project fund, we purchased builder's risk insurance, and that will run through the end of the project. It's slated to expire the end of August 2026. If need be, it can be extended. But when that project is complete and we no longer are using the builder's risk, we have to bring it back on, all 3 schools back onto our policy. With the renovation, they're at a higher value than they were when they went off the policy. But we did experience some savings on the general fund side while they were off. The estimate that we just received for a full year of insurance on the 3 buildings is about $100,000. Prorating it for 10 months, assuming they come back on September 1st, is about $83,000. The way that we do our liability, our LAP premium, is we take the full amount and we allocate it based on a long ago determined allocation across the general fund, parking fund, sewer fund, Board of Ed, the library, and a small amount to Great Island. So all of those pieces will share in this $83,000 increase. They also all shared in the savings while it was covered through builder's risk. So for the general fund, that comes out to $54,611. For the Board of Ed, it was a little under $23,000. And the $3,588 that you see here is what the premium, the increased premium for the library would be. The sewer fund, parking fund, and Great Island are minimal. I didn't put them on here, but we'll make those adjustments, the adjustment in those funds as well.
Were the construction insurance premiums during HHR capitalized into that project? Is that how
Yes.
that worked? Okay.
Back on risk management. Heart and hypertension is very stable. It's a small amount. Workers' comp has been very stable, 523, 25, 514,000 last year. We had a budget of 540. This year, we're running on track that will be sufficient, so we are keeping it flat for next year. And on the revenue side, we do have insurance recoveries. Those consist of an annual distribution, member distribution from KERMA. Not necessarily annual. I think there's 1 year in the 10 years that I've been here that we did not receive it, but we budget a 3-year average of what we've received from KERMA. But then we do also, we don't budget for it, but in the actuals, we do receive wage replacement from KERMA for people who are out on workers' comp. So in a year where we have a lot of people out on workers' comp, we pay their full wage and then KERMA reimburses us, and that goes in as an insurance recovery. If we have a year where we don't have a lot of workers' comp, we wouldn't have we wouldn't have much in there other than the KERMA member distribution. So we only do a 3-year average of the KERMA distribution. Employee benefits. Big item here is medical insurance. We are early in the process of renewal. We have our worst case scenario renewal is 15.9%. The way our renewal works is we'll get a few more rounds of that before we finalize the budget, and they set our final renewal in March. It is out for RFP. We've had our consultant has run the RFP, said they've gotten a couple of responses, and they're asking people to quote for fully insured as well as self-insured. So we're waiting to see those numbers and evaluate if a move to self-insured makes sense for us. So more to come on that number. We'll have a lot more clarity and a better number there when we're at Board of Finance. The reason that on a 15.9% premium renewal, we have a 10.4% budgetary change. We have had people, for one, employee cost shares go up a little bit every year, so that helps a little bit. But we have had people, more people opting for our higher deductible $2,500, $5,000 plan that wasn't available to a couple of unions until this year, and there's been some decent adoption of that. And we've also seen that some people are moving into lower cost tiers of coverage, moving away from family and going to +1, or moving from +1 to employee only coverage. I don't think we've seen much movement for opt-outs. We do pay people to opt out of our insurance, but I think those numbers have been pretty stable.
Yeah, one thing to add to that is that the Board of Ed, or the superintendent, they're moving the schools to a stop-loss program. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get our insurance broker, their insurance broker, the administration team, Jen and me, we will all sit down and let's just hear the professionals talk. So in addition to getting the bid from our broker, I kind of want to hear from them what their decision dynamics were. And let's just see, they were able to essentially get away with a very small, if any, increase. But there's the broader issue of what is their contribution to a reserve, if you will, for paying all that, which is a big point behind stop-loss insurance. And so there's some other technicalities we need to explore on kind of what they're proposing on their end. But we're on it. We just need a little more time to sort out some options.
John, one of the things that they mentioned is their budget would have been 1% higher had they not gone to self-insurance this year.
Yeah, percentage point higher, that's right.
Yeah, 1%.
Yeah, a big number.
Percentage point higher.
Yep.
On
Well, I mean, so stop-loss is not a panacea. It works until it doesn't.
that. Yeah.
And when it doesn't work, it's
Then
bad.
go back the other
And so I just want to reiterate to everybody that there's no magic bullet on medical insurance. It's expensive, and it's getting more expensive, and there's not some obvious path forward that said, aha, if we only did that, we'd be spending so much less. That's fake news.
Which is why companies go in and then go out when those major.
Well, and that's why as a town, we take a careful look at this every year. It's rebid, we think about it because we just don't know. year to year what our best option is going to be, and that's why I think Jennifer's right. We just got to take a careful look, and we will.
Also in employee benefits, Social Security, it's up $100,000, which is 11%. A part of that is in the last couple of years, I tightened down what we were budgeting for Social Security. So I think last year we might have needed to transfer in about $15,000. I think we may have had a small transfer in maybe the year before, but I know last year we did, and this year's budget used that same method. That was a little bit too tight. So we've adjusted that, so that's part of this increase, and the rest is a result of growth in wages and overtime and other pays. The good news in employee benefits are these in orange. These are all of our pension and OPEB contributions. As a result of good performance in the last year, our contribution across all of those is actually down $394,000 in the general fund. There's little pieces of this in other funds as well, but the library has a decrease in their pension, and as does the Board of Ed. What we do have now, since we've got more people coming onto our defined contribution, about a $29,000 increase in the DC plan. We have 3 unions, the town hall, dispatchers, and public works. New hires go into the DC. So what we see through attrition is someone retires out of the pension plan, a new one comes in on the DC. Eventually, way down the road, when probably none of us are here any longer, we will see that the DC is gonna start to outpace the pension because we'll have a lot more people in the DC.
And just to be clear for everybody, those decreased pension contributions, that's not a decision we made to reduce contributions. This is still the actuarially required contribution. The reason you're seeing a decrease is that it's calculated on I believe, a 5-year rolling average.
Right.
And so what happens is you take the average set of returns over 5 years and you use that to calculate the contribution. So what's happened is that a prior year has dropped out of that calculation, and it might have been a lost year, and it's now been replaced with a gain. And when you smooth that over 5 years, it'll say, oh, now you don't have to contribute twice as much. So they're smoothed, and we've just had some good returns that is benefiting us now. So this is all very formulaic. It's not a decision we made to cut our contributions.
Correct. Contingency. Not much here. We have our standard contingency at 175. We've kept it that way for a couple of years. It's served us well. We used to budget a lot higher for contingency, but 175 seems to be sufficient. Salary increase contingency is up $247,000, about 134%. That includes the $40,000 that we talked about last night for the part-time adjustment. Also included in there is an assumed increase for non-union full-time employees and police union employees. Their contract expires June 30th. So we have put some money aside. We'll be starting negotiations with them in the coming months. We don't expect it to be settled, definitely by the time the budget is done, but even by June 30th. So money is set aside there. They are our largest bargaining unit, so in terms of salary increases, but also because of the number of different types of pay that they have, a lot more goes in here for that bargaining unit than we would see for the other bargaining units that are pretty much just salary and smaller membership.
Hey Jen, when will the increase in the part-time, when does that begin? When does that take effect?
If the Board of Finance approved the transfer tonight, it will take effect with the next pay period. I think, I don't know which week of the pay period we're in, but in the next few weeks, people will start to see that in the paycheck. By
March 1st, for sure.
Yeah.
A question for Jen and Jack. So we just cut $141,000 in contingency spending out of the proposal for Great Island and have said that we'd go back to the Board of Finance to fund any of those things should they come up out of Board of Finance contingency. So with that balance sitting at $175,000, which needs to include that as well as everything else, And what do you think of that?
Those are capital items, so they would be covered through the Board of Finance Capital Reserve, which
okay.
has a couple $100,000 in it.
All of that would be covered through capital?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, all associated with a capital project, so we would run that through capital non-recurring.
got it, okay.
And then for my other side, I've long said, still think that 175 is more than adequate.
For this, then
Jack is an advocate for a lower number there.
Yeah, because we can turn around any real money you need in a thing from Board of Selectmen to Board of Finance at any time from the general fund.
what's in the Board of Finance Capital Contingency Fund now? Do you have that handy?
I don't know offhand, let me check on it and let you know tomorrow.
Okay.
I think it's a couple $100,000, and they'll be doing a round of project closeouts in March before they vote on the budget, so that usually adds a little bit in.
Okay.
Yeah, they have done a couple of charges on it during the course of this year. Small, but
I'm forgetting now how much they charge to that, so, okay.
Our last area to review tonight is debt service. This is really managed by the Board of Finance. We are preparing for a bond sale in April. We do have a placeholder in here. We made some assumptions, but we do have a placeholder in here for the April bond sale. Board of Finance will be finalizing the size and the structure, so the numbers are subject to change. We in here assumed 49 million bonded for Great Island. We've done bands on that. We have to either start doing a pay down or permanently finance that with bonds this year, so we're assuming that will be a bond. For purposes of this number, we assumed a very sizable band for other active projects, but that's being refined and will be a smaller number probably than what we included in here. We wanted to kind of have worst case scenario in here. But that'll be, I think Board of Finance was starting to discuss size tonight, and then they'll finalize that in March. And the sale will occur before the Board of Finance votes, so we'll have the final numbers then. Board of Finance will have to determine if they want to do bonds, bans on other things, and that's really a balance of meeting bonding timeline requirements against managing and making sure that we have sufficient cash flow for other projects that are active that we may not be borrowing for. One thing that I forgot to go over last night when we did Park and Rec is the Recreation Program Fund, which is a very simple fund, but I did just want to put it up on the screen. This is the one we created a few years ago to account for their program revenue and expenses because of the volatility. We were always chasing our tail, especially in COVID when participation shot up, so we created this fund. Total budget is $1,608,000. It's actually a decrease of $77,000. And it's the way it works is they bring in enough to cover the programs themselves, as well as some extra to provide a contribution to the general fund that helps offset overhead costs. So in fiscal 27, what they're anticipating is revenues of 1.6 million, expenses just under 1.3 million, and a contribution to the general fund of 328,000. That goes into the Park and Rec revenue, like I said, to offset their overhead in running these programs. Follow-ups. Took a look at the senior center meals, and based on the estimate of, or the projection of 35 meals a day, accounting for the couple of free meals that they give, holidays, the week that they're closed in the summer, we could bump up that revenue to $36,270, which is an increase of $2,270. Cherry Lawn, I did reach out to Jen. She's still out, but she did say that she has a written response from the vendor about those ADA issues. She just hasn't had a chance to dig through it yet and She hasn't had a chance to review it yet. On my to-do list that I haven't done yet is looking at kind of how we do drones, best practice on that. Investment income, Sarah, I know you had some questions, and Joan did email me and said that she reached out to you.
She did. She sent quite a long email and some information. However, I came right from work, so I haven't had an opportunity to look through any of the information. I will say that it seems similar to some of the commentary that she's given over the past several years. I do see, I think there's a trend that she tends to predict lower than the rates of return that we've seen. So it's not up to me what gets put in the budget for the predicted revenue. It's for the board to discuss, but I just sometimes curious. It's incredible. You can't predict performance, so and she's, there's some mitigating factors. She talked about, how some of the accounts are set up and so forth, but I don't know that there's an answer. It's more of a comment, I guess.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that when HHR was very active and we were borrowing for it, those funds would be available for investing and generate some of that investment income. With HHR winding down, we don't have that balance contributing some. So we do expect that there would be, even without rate changes, there'd be some decrease in the investment income.
I think that's a great point, Jen. And you have that in a separate account, right?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe if we could break that out, that might help explain a little bit of the difference.
If I could add to that, you also have to look at what's going on this year. We're not going to have Powell as the Fed chair. There's pressure to lower rates.
100%.
And so, the other thing about it is, when I looked, I mentioned to Jen earlier today, while we're seeing an $800,000 drop in investment income from the budget, it's not really telling you this true story, because we've been adding $500,000 to $1 million over budget, which goes into our general fund, which we typically use to pay down capital and our taxes. So, there was the decrease is greater.
I understand that. I think it is an impossible task to predict. Right, it is. There's no two ways around it. She's trying to take, historical information and returns and trying to guess what's happening in the economy in the world. It's an impossible task. So, yeah.
All right, we'll get you a little more information about how the bond fund, I don't want to say idle, but the bond funds impacted investment income. Commentaries, Monica had mentioned some discrepancies. I didn't have a chance to look at those yet, and I will. Senior center uniforms, I did confirm that the percent was correct. So where we stand on these changes, I think we have talked about all of these. That is all that I have for tonight. Is if there's any, tomorrow night is our last night. We're hoping to have final deliberations and a vote. So if there are any questions that you have or any information that you want, that you know of now, let me know, or shoot me an email tomorrow so we can have everything ready for tomorrow night.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn? Okay, Sarah moves, Monica seconds, all in favor. We stand adjourned. Thank you, friends.
John?